Alright, so first and foremost, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakadash. We say, double and Sapatan, Elos Agreed, Musan Rubel, our teachers, our apostle in truth, and we say salutations, so the Akim, so the push with no truth and sincerity, day in and day out, and constantly in season or season with Shalom. Once again, going into our video here, I know this touching upon something Trump said in an interview. He said, if the report, matter of fact, I'm going to play the video. Right? Probably volume a little bit. All right. So one in the latter half of the video, you hear him talking about the oil prices is down and all this sort of stuff, which is, if you're actually watching the market right now, is basically a lie, because what the reporter, just as the headline stated, if the reporter asks if the war with Iran could cause a worldwide depression, are you willing to risk economic catastrophe? And his response was nuclear weapon supersedes depression, right? Now, when you look up the it says an economic catastrophe or economic collapse is a sudden devastating breakdown in a region or country's economy. It is characterized by severe disruptions in trade. That is what we're seeing right now, the situation that happened with the Strait of Hormuz, right? You see the trade process there, right? As I said, it is characterized by severe disruptions in trade. You're seeing that going on across there, right? You're seeing the situation with the food, right? With certain stuff for certain countries, when it comes to like the trade, they're not even getting certain supplies, right? Certain supplies not even reaching their country, right? It says skyrocketing unemployment. Right now, if you go and look up that, you could do a Google search. You could literally go and look up how terribly unemployment is worldwide, but specifically we're speaking about America. How I believe I don't think I have the article saved anymore, but a quick search would tell you it's in the negatives, right? It's very very bad. The unemployment is very high right now, right? It's a widespread bankruptcies and a sharp decline in living standards. Now, when you hear all these things, right, that shows that economic catastrophe is coming or is happening. America is basically going through all of that right now, right? The living standards is very poor. The you're seeing bankruptcies. You even seen banks closing down, right? You're seeing it shutting down. You're seeing a lot of places, ceasing to exist, I should say, right? So it says key characteristics and economic catastrophe usually features several simultaneous failures across the financial system. Hyperinflation, right now you're seeing that, right? Money rapidly loses its value, rendering cash almost worthless and causing the price of basic goods to soar. And we are seeing that right now. I believe in the coming weeks you're going to see a more hyperinflation due to the fact that um, of what's happening with the energy crisis right now, right? It's a mass unemployment, right? Businesses shut down or conduct massive layoffs due to lack of capital or sudden drops in consumer demand. It's a credit and banking freezes. Financial institutions face a loss of confidence leading to bankruptcy, a collapse in lending, and frozen investments. Normal commerce is a supply chain breakdown. Normal commerce fails, leading to shortages of essential goods like food, medicine, and energy. And all these things being mentioned here, all of these is happening right now in America, right? It happened in the world. As about say, we're talking about America right now. So when he answered this, because this is what they know is happening right now, right? They say when the reporter asks if the war with Iran could cause a worldwide depression, are you willing to risk economic catastrophe? So he's willing, and it's actually happening, right? Now, what I want to go to, let me go to a precept here, because I want to go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, right? Um, Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 4. It says, riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness deliver it from death. Because the reason why I want to start with the scripture is because it shows that the money is going to become more worthless, right? All this money that you see Jake saving up, that you're hearing them talking about, that they have right now, you know, that they're going around. If an economic catastrophe is bound to happen, would those riches help you in the day of wrath? No, it's not. It's not. It's not going to help you in the day of wrath, because that paper dollar is going to be is becoming more useless, right? It's becoming useless. So would riches profit in the day of wrath? No, it won't. It said, but righteousness deliver it from death, because that is what you would need to actually help you through the times that is going to come. You know, these dark times that are ahead, right? Righteousness, that would say, but righteousness delivered from death. So you're hearing things about, a crash, economic catastrophe, right? Right now, doing this video, there's an earthquake happening, 7 point something happening in Venezuela. It basically destroyed some of the buildings and so forth. There's a lot of, where you say hurt happening around the world, and some of these jakes that thinking everything nice, right? They feel they're not going to get touched, or nothing is going to happen to the place they are living in, and that's wrong, right? There's a lot of jakes that believe that they have a little money saved up, that's going to benefit them in the time to come, right? We now read what happens with an economic catastrophe, and when those things happen, we feel it's going to be what chaotic, right? It's going to be very chaotic. That would say supply chain, food, medicine, and energy. Imagine it has shortages of just food. Do you know how bad that's going to be, right? So that is why I want to bring on the Proverbs 11. It goes to show that in those times, riches is not going to profit you, right? But righteousness delivered from death, right? No. Let's go to the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, and I want to start from verse. I want to go. 2nd Ezra 15 verse 16. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and the men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread. Because of the lack of what? Of bread. So when you hear a president of the so-called free world speaking about, hey, he rather them have not nukes, so he rather see an economic catastrophe than something else. These are the kind of things that hey, when they talk about the lack of food, medicine, energy, the scripture is telling me here, because the scripture is telling me here, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy the houses with the sword. And why would they be doing these things and spoil their goods? Because of the lack of bread. Because of the what? The lack of bread, and of great tribulation. Because of what? Of great tribulation. Now, let us get this here. Tribulation, right? Tribulation meaning, right? It's a tribulation. It says tribulation is referred to a state of great trouble, severe suffering, or a trying experiences, right? So when you're reading an economic catastrophe, it's telling you how bad it's going to be. No food, no medicine, no energy, right? So that by itself is it is a very serious thing, right? And the scripture is telling you what? That because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation, a man wouldn't have pity upon his neighbor. He not in that time. Think about it. Men hungry, they need food. The kids might need to eat, right? In that day, they really and truly don't care about you. You might be one of them. That is why I start again. That is why I started the Proverbs 11, because it's telling you what would deliver you in those times. Righteousness will, because we feel like going and doing it, that man who had a spirit on him that not going to have pity. You might do him for 40 something years, but just because he can't get food, or he can't get medicine, maybe for his sick daughter, whatever it may be, he's going to what? He's going to off you, right? And that's what it say. And for great tribulation, the kind of things that they will be going through, that way it say severe suffering, right? We feel an economic depression cause. When I was reading the meaning just now, let's picture it in the head, how bad it's going to be. No food, no medicine, no energy, no work, right? We're talking about martial laws, all these things, because it will be very chaotic, right? Very tough, right? So these are the kind of things that we're heading into, right? That's coming, that's on its way, right? So let me just jump down to verse 24. It says, "Woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments, said the Lord. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power. Defile not my sanctuary. For the Lord knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivered he them unto death and destruction." So it goes to show all them that sin against the Lord and continue to do it, and the boasting and the wickedness, this is what the Lord sending unto them. That cruel, you see that cruel king speaking right now, talking about he don't care if he end up in an economic depression. You're seeing so much of these people talking about is 4 more weeks for is oil, right? The reserves have, and certain other things I was reading today, going into like the shortages America actually facing right now. That is one of the reasons we're trying to push to get a deal made, so that the trade could actually open back up, and trade and all these things could come back normal, right? So going back now to this, all these things, right? It is characterized. When you look at the word characterize, right? Characterize, it means to describe or portray the distinctive nature, features, or qualities of something, right? To describe or portray. And what we see in what we're reading about right now, the economic catastrophe, bankruptcies, we're seeing that a sharp decline in living standards. We are seeing that unemployment is at the highest it's ever been, right? We said disruptions in trade. We see that. Let me just new tab. America unemployment. Right. Let's look it up here. America unemployment rate stands at 4.3. Right. 4.3 as of the latest May 2026 data release. Right. Great Depression, right? And if you actually go and look up, like, if you actually look up the Great Depression, and I think if you look up the 2008 recession, you would see, I think the way the economy is right now is actually worse than the 2008 recession. It's actually worse, right? So again, you see the path we heading on to, right? You see what's coming. That is what the Lord say. For now the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. It is not coming out. That's why every single thing you read and everything you see on the news is getting worse and worse. It's not getting better. It have no coming out of it. Right? They say, for God shall not deliver you because ye have sinned against him. Right? So jump into 2 Ezra 16 and let me read verse 21. They say, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth. Right? For behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And that is what you see growing upon. It say, what the scripture say? Then shall evils grow upon earth. This is what we're seeing. A reporter asking a president if it's thing to risk a great economic catastrophe, and he was like, he don't care. That is to show you the kind of things being done, right? And the kind of evil that is coming to this place, right? That is why you always have to be occupied in prophecies, right? Always on the watch. Because when these things happen, it have nothing you have is going to save you in a time. That is why the scriptures mention, but righteousness deliver it, right? That is what going to deliver it. And we know these 2/3, they don't have that righteousness. In that time, all that scoffing and scorning they used to do, that mocking, that is when they know they want to know the name of the Lord. That is when they go want to turn to the Lord, right? Only when them evil days come, that is when people just want to Jake, especially Jake, only holders want to change, right? As the scriptures say, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy, right? So, as the scriptures say, many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, the scarcity of food. One of the things that we just read in an economic catastrophe is what? The supply chain breakdown, right? Food, medicine, and energy. So, some of the most important things you need, right? That is why they said, leading to shortages of essential goods. Of what? Of essential goods, right? And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Shall the sword do what? Destroy, right? So um um I'm gonna jump down to verse 39. Right? I'm gonna read from verse. I'm gonna jump down to verse 38. As when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth a son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. They say, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. Sorrows upon what? Every side, right? Because economic depression, if you actually watch like so much of like if you're watching the news and listen to the news, you would see plenty reporters, plenty news stations talking about the economic crash, the economy crash, the the market crash. They can them talking about the supply chain, and the American government need to open it back and so forth, because it causing this, it causing that, it causing this place to go through this, right? So it say what? They say common triggers. These events are typically um, precipitated by major systemic shocks, financial crashes, such sudden panics and bursts of economic bubbles, and we seeing that right now. Like it have days now. Trump actually passed a law, if I could recall, earlier this year, that the market could never show um its true sitting, meaning that the market could be on red, but they would have to show it to be on green, right? And I could be wrong, but it's something along those lines. So every time you hear about the market, like he just mentioned, the market is good. the oil's down. That is basically a lie, right? That is a lie. They are actually lying. When you go and actually look it up, it's actually increasing, right? It's actually getting worse. Sorry, it's actually on the red, right? Because it's bad, it's terrible, right? The things are crashing. It's a financial crashes, sudden panics, and bursts of economic bubbles. Um, it's a debt crisis when a government defaults on its loans and can no longer fund public services or pay its workers. Didn't we just saw this with its TSA, the play in the airport in America? They couldn't even pay them, right? And I believe even now it have many other places right now that they're not playing. That is the reason why Trump was firing so much of government workers, sending them home because they just don't have the money to pay them. That's what it's saying. When a government defaults on its loans and can no longer fund public services or pay its workers, geopolitical or natural disasters. Wow. And I just mentioned the earthquakes that are happening right now, right? They say wars, pandemics, or severe natural events that destroy infrastructure and cripple production. Right? That's what the scriptures say. Sorrows shall come upon it on every side. On what? Every side. So he talking about an economic catastrophe, and when you look into it, watch how serious it is, right? So serious it is. So that, like, before close of A, we seeing what happening. We seeing what playing out. We in that time the scriptures mention the end is being made manifest, right? It being made plain, right? Hey, we go and see the fall of that great kingdom, right? That whore. Hey, man, so much things to happening right now. If you're watching the news, if you blink, right? If you blink, you might miss something. You know, the RFID is being talked about, right? So much things happen, as I say, RFID, natural disasters, economic crashes, you know, wars, pandemics, you know. As I say, if you blink, you know, you miss something. By the scripture mentioned to always be on the watch, you know, and always being occupied in prophecies that you're supposed to be. We in that time. So with that, once again, I give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rikakadash. We said of us apostle and lots of great ministers and rule when our teachers are apostleship, and we see salutations to the Akim, to the push within truth and sincerity, day in and day out, and constantly in season or season, we say, Shalom.